Hi everyone, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra here again at C2 Tactical with Sergeant Tim Forshey.
Well, Master Sergeant, technically.
Master Sergeant.
Yeah, so the master of the sergeants. Yeah,
of the Arizona Rangers, and also criminal defense attorney extraordinaire. And we recently had a video on the channel, a little bit ago at this point, with a sergeant out of Merced, with Merced County Sheriff's Office, who, I mean, just literally beat the crap out of somebody. And some people asked in the comments, but several people in the comments asked, at what point can I as a citizen defend myself against aggravated assault by a police officer? And there is the correct answer, and there's an honest answer. And so I'm gonna talk to Tim about it today. To win the fight after the fight, you need help. After a use of force, I trust Firearms Legal Protection to help me win the fight for the rest of my life. From their 24/7 attorney-answered hotline to coverage for the use of all legal tools, Firearms Legal Protection has you covered. Get a discount by signing up at the link below. I think, Tim, it's kind of a Kobayashi Maru here, right? So there's a dated pop culture reference.
Not that dated. For guys my age, that's not that dated at all.
Okay, so if you're old, like us, yeah, you get that reference, right?
So
if
how would Kirk solve this situation?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Because, okay, have we ever seen this? Yes, obviously, you know, we see this instance here that I think is being handled correctly. He's been fired and charged.
The system is working, it seems to me, yes. Yeah.
Now, there is something in there that it looks like the incident happened in like April. Things didn't start rolling until like August. Like maybe it took his family filing a complaint for them to go back and get the badge cams and then start this process. So, you know.
Or it could have been just internal things move very, very slowly, especially in the post-COVID world. I mean, we just saw, I think yesterday, we just saw some indictments come down in Matthew Perry's death, and that was about a year ago, and that left a really clear trail, and it still took him a year. So,
yeah, that's true.
You know, the system moves slower than we would think, so.
Yeah, okay, fine. We see all that. We saw Derek Chauvin, you know, now we can say murder, George Floyd, was convicted of murder. And so that, and some people have asked on that one too, well, John, wait a minute, what if I step in and you know, can I help when a cop is murdering somebody? Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, don't forget, police officers have certain protections under statutory law and common law that private citizens don't in terms of effecting arrests and using force. They sort of get the benefit of the doubt more than probably the average civilian does. That said, they're held to the same standard. The laws apply to police officers just as they do to the rest of us. So if you see a police officer who is clearly exceeding any legal or moral boundary with regard to the use of force, in theory, yes, you can intervene and stop them. So the problem is, like I always say, when you intervene on behalf of a third party, were you there when the movie started?
You better be right.
You walk around the corner and you see a cop wailing on a guy. How do you know the cop hasn't been stabbed 17 times and the guy still has a knife in his hand that you can't see? I mean, there's so many unknowns that intervening just has a much greater amount of risk than if you're acting to defend yourself. If I'm defending myself, I was there when the movie started. I probably know what happened. You walk around a corner and you see somebody getting stabbed, you don't know how the movie began. So that's how, you know, whenever you're talking about third-party lethal force intervention, you got to be very, very careful about that. So. Yeah. But that said, yeah, I mean, if I'm there from the very beginning and I see a cop who's clearly exceeding, without question, any bounds, and I decide to intervene, in theory, yes, that's legal. The problem is the cop's probably better trained and better armed than I am, and I may very well lose that. I mean, okay, I'm vindicated later, but that's when my wife's standing over my grave. That doesn't really help me out too much. You know, and people say, well, when can I use lethal force against a cop? When can I defend myself against a cop if he's being excessive? And the answer is he's got a badge and a gun and the dictates of society, and that's a lot more difficult call. In fact, coincidentally, I was just yesterday in court in the far southeast valley. I had to drive about an hour and a half to get there, actually out of the valleys in Pinal County. But anyway, and my client encountered a police officer, and my client felt that the police officer was being belligerent and using excessively harsh language and excessively harsh body language. And so he got in the cop's face. Well, it turns out that the guy's girlfriend blew a .21, and he was letting her drive because she was in better shape to drive than he was. Oh. So he admitted that he was incredibly drunk. In fact, that's a super extreme DUI in the state of Arizona. Yeah. So he admitted that he was incredibly drunk, and yet we're supposed to take his word over the two uniformed officers who weren't drinking. So, and they could have been raging buttholes. I don't know, I wasn't there, but the fact is, good luck proving that in court. And now if you're gonna say, well, the only reason I put my hands on the cop was because of X, Y, and Z, well, you were admittedly incredibly drunk, and the cop clearly wasn't. And so right there, your credibility gap, it couldn't be greater. Yeah. You're never gonna win that argument. I always tell people, I've never met a person yet who's ever won an argument with a cop.
Right.
I might win it in court 3 weeks from now, or 3 days from now, or 3 years from
Not
now.
on the roadside,
but
though.
Not roadside. You're going to lose, and they've got a vest and a gun and a badge and a partner, and you don't. So,
And a radio.
So yeah. So you better be damn careful and damn sure if you're going to intervene on something like this.
So Tim just told you there's a legal answer here, an honest one, and then a practical answer. Okay. So let's just think. In this Merced incident, this cop is just steel-toe boot kicking somebody in the face.
And then he kept his foot on the guy's head.
Kept
the guy's face down and cuffed for, I think I timed it, it was almost like 3 minutes. And he had his foot with weight on it, it looked like, on the back of this guy's head.
Horrifically bad.
Horrific.
And he should go to prison for it, okay? And I hope that the jury in Merced County figures that out, and that's just an egregious violation of the public trust. And I think even worse, because he has a badge, because he's been trained better.
He's got to be held to a higher standard.
And so he's held to that standard. Okay, fine. Let's just say we saw all that, and I decide, oh, you know what? I'm going for it. I got to stop this. This is so egregiously bad, I can't say no. And I draw my gun and I say, get off him. I'm legally justified in that case to do that.
Well, I would say you are. Of course, it only matters what a jury says, but I would say you are, yes.
I think within the color of the law. Now, whether the jury agrees, we've talked about the dragon.
Sure. Yeah, the dragon has the different opinions.
Might have different opinions, but from a normal understanding of the law, I can intervene to stop a third-party aggravated assault. That's what I did. But let's think about that practically. Okay, now I have to convince a jury and a district attorney that me drawing a gun on a servant of the public was good.
Well, let's back up a step and be even more practical. No, first you have to survive what's going to happen next.
Okay, so
because there's a partner and there's 2 arriving officers that see you pointing a gun at a police officer. You think you're going to make it to a jury?
Yeah, good luck.
You might.
So yeah, first problem is, even if I go, hey man, get off of him, and the cop goes, oh no, and now what's a cop trained to do when somebody pulls a gun on him? He's going to draw his gun and shoot back. We're having a gunfight now. Okay, his partner going to go, man, he was probably right and my partner is wrong, and so I should let him kill my partner? That's not going to happen. No. That's just not. So he's going to get in the fight. Now I'm saying, okay, now I'm going to win a fight against 2 cops. Now I got to call 911, and guess who's coming? More cops. And they're not coming. Yes, I just shot 2 of your dudes because they were committing aggravated assault. So the first one was committing aggravated assault on a third party. And so I drew my gun to stop him. They both drew guns on me. I was justified to do what I did. And so they were committing aggravated assault against me then. So I defended myself. And
next thing you know, it's a video game, and there's like 53 cars with
infinite
106 dead
respawns.
cops laying around. That's assuming you're the best gunfighter in the world. So.
Now, hopefully, again, you put the gun away, the other cops show up, holy crap, this is terrible, please don't kill me. They don't. And okay, now that assumes you're better than those 2 cops, which most people aren't, quite frankly, okay? Now, maybe you are. Okay, fine. I'm a better shooter than most cops that I know. Okay, fine. I get in that gunfight. I maybe win that fight, 2-on-1. Okay, good. Remember,
like I said, now there's more cops coming. Yeah. There's more cops coming. So.
And then I have to convince the district attorney. I may have the world's greatest criminal defense attorney, but I have to convince the district attorney that that was reasonable conduct, that what I did was within the color of the law. Good luck.
Right.
And then, if a district attorney goes, "Ooh, this looks like snot," and so I'm just going to, whether I send it to a grand jury. Or I go, no, we'll let a jury figure that out. I'm going to file charges here. And what charges am I filing? Murder of a protected person, which any assault against a law enforcement officer in Arizona is considered aggravated assault.
Correct, yeah. You take a swing at a cop and you miss them. It's aggravated assault.
Aggravated assault against a police officer, which is...
At best, that's a 6 felony. It could be a 3.
Could be a 3.
Yeah.
And so... It's, right? And then I got to go to 12 jurors of my peers and go, hey, no, it was a good idea. This was what I needed to do in the moment. Now it might, I could see somebody saying, well, wait a minute, he was literally murdering an innocent child in front of me and I didn't have any choice. And if you can't sleep with yourself at night, if you do nothing.
At the end of the day, we always say that, because, we've talked about this before, that I get questions all the time from potential clients or from students, and they'll say, well, when can I shoot this guy? And that just chills me when I hear that, because it's not when can you shoot someone, it's not a hunting license, it's when must you, when you have no choice but. And I think the same thing applies here. As egregious as this was to watch, I don't know that it became where it was clear to me that guy on the bottom was going to die.
Right.
Right. If I had seen his boot come back covered in blood and a pool of blood and it was his third kick, okay, I either have to watch this guy get literally murdered or I have to stand by and do nothing. Or I have to intervene. And maybe I'm forced to intervene. But at that point, especially when you're dealing with armed police officers, you are literally putting your life in grave jeopardy by stepping in. So would any of us, without thought, give our lives to save our children's life? Of course.
Sure.
Would any of us give our lives without thought to save a stranger's life? Maybe. Maybe not. Because you've got to be honest about that, right?
Yep.
So if I step in and draw a gun on a cop because I think he's abusing a person in custody, I'm willing to die.
Right.
I'm willing to sacrifice my life to save the person's life that I think is being taken. And when I watch this video, as horrific as it was, I thought that guy may have been unconscious, but I don't think that I saw blood yet. I don't think I heard bones breaking. I'm not sure that and it sounds like he did survive, thank God.
He did, thank God. Well, and he's going to get paid. I mean, that guy's never going to work another day in his life.
And deserves it, probably.
100%.
That said, I'm sorry if this is the unpopular way. I mean, this isn't really in keeping with what we're talking about, but you know what? Don't be drunk, tell a cop how to do their job and take a swing at a cop. Because that's, let's be honest, that's what kind of set this whole, it got out of control and the cop completely screwed up way beyond bounds. But don't take a swing at a cop.
Don't take a swing. And I don't know what the cop said. I don't know what the sergeant said to his girlfriend that set him off from that. And it's just problems all the way around. Clearly this guy had other issues and the sergeant had other issues. And we could have whole videos on. I'm curious and wondering what trauma was in that sergeant's past that he brought to this call that set that off.
I really liked what Mike pointed out when I watched the video about, if you need a mental health day, take one.
Yeah.
If you had a fight with your wife that morning, if you just found out your son's got leukemia, okay, take some time. You can't deal with the things you have to deal with if you're dealing with that as well. So I like that.
Tough stuff all the way around. Yeah. And again, I hope they bury that guy under the jail. Yeah. Quite frankly, I mean, there's no excuse for what he did. I'm just saying it really is that Kobayashi Maru. Yeah. If you step in and you decide, nope, I'm drawing a gun on this cop, I don't think you win that fight. I think, again, they have infinite respawns and partners and radios. Yep. And they're probably better than you. Now I get it. There are some real gunfighters that watch this channel and, really, really, really good shooters. And maybe you're that 1% who could win against 3 cops who happen to be standing around.
And let's say and I agree with that. We both met those guys.
Yeah, we know those
But
folks.
now, you know what? Now there's 4 cops responding to the scene of 3 cops being killed. And now there's 15 cops responding to the scene of 7 cops being killed. I mean, at what point do you have to realize that you're going to run out of ammo sometime? I mean, it's just, you're going to lose. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. I mean, even if hopefully, again, you're standing there, by the time the cops get there, you're smart enough to literally have stripped yourself naked and be standing there with your hands up like this in the air, completely naked, so you're no threat.
Let's be honest, in some jurisdictions,
it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter.
It's amazingly low apprehension rates for cop killers. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's weird.
The way that works out.
Yeah, so, I just think I understand the impetus of the questions. Yeah. I just think it's one of those situations you're not gonna win. Right. And I am grateful that the deputy did step in at some point. That was ballsy.
The most courageous guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wow. To tell your boss to knock it off. Holy cow.
Yeah, I have a funny story I've told friends. I won't bother you with it here on the channel, of me as a nuclear reactor operator in the Navy having to tell a higher up to go and soil himself. For another day. But these things can't happen. That was the culture we had in the nuclear Navy, and it's broken and just ugly in other ways. But that's very rare. And for him to be even willing to do that to correct his supervisor, I think is a good thing. I think that's laudable and commendable. I do hope that when they got done, that was a discussion. Dude, Sarge, what the heck, man? Right. Like, that's not cool. And now I got to go talk to the lieutenant about that and say, hey, we had a big problem on shift. And this guy who went to the hospital, he went because this was too much. Yeah. So then there's that next level. So again, don't do it, y'all. There's the legal answer that may be in front of the jury, but you're pushing your life into the middle of the table on that bet. You're pushing your financial future. You're certainly going to be vilified in the media. And that's probably, we haven't talked about getting shot to death. So I feel horrible for this guy who's getting kicked. What about his kids? What about your kids? I mean, you hate to be pragmatic about it, but you have to be pragmatic about this stuff. So yeah. Unfortunate truth. Yep. Tim, thanks for the knowledge. Always, buddy, always. This is a tough one.